Welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate, a weekly podcast where I walk you through some of the wildest, most unbelievable stories you'll hear from the world of real estate. If you like real estate and you love crazy, this is the podcast for you. Hello, friends. Leigh Brown here, and I'm so glad that you're back at Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, you be prepared because you're going to hear a whole lot of name dropping. I've got Dustin Brohm on the show. He's the podcaster from Massive Agent Podcast. He is knocking the cover off the ball in real estate, not just for selling, but also for training. He's a great guy, and he's part of the industry syndicate. So everybody whose name gets dropped, be prepared to hit the comment stream and enjoy Dustin's story. Hello, Dustin, and welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
You know, I'm supposed to remind you that Phil's already been on the show and Steve Kyles has already recorded his episode. So the industry syndicate is now going to be fully represented by having Dustin here from the Massive Agent Podcast.
How much do they pay you to say that shit?
Oh, I just said it anyway because I think it's so fun to poke at you because we're going to have to poke at Phil during the episode because he's really proud to be the first syndicate person to be on my show.
Yeah. And let's definitely go there.
Definitely.
Yeah. See, we can just improve. We saw what a disaster he was. And so now, I'm here to kind of save the brand.
Right. You're here to show what a real podcaster looks like and sounds like, and as a real pro. I like the little disc on your microphone. It's very fancy.
Oh, yeah. The pop filter.
Does that actually help? Because I have that same Yeti, but I don't have the filter.
Yep. So when you do the P's and S's without it, it's like that, like, or.
I'll just believe you that it sounds different. Maybe I'm middle-aged. I don't hear correctly, maybe.
Just trust me. It's supposed to work.
Totally. This is why you are so followed, because we can't just trust you, Dustin. I think you should tell people what you did before you started the Massive Agent Podcast, because you know what you're doing.
Okay.
How long have you been in real estate or around real estate?
I've been an agent for 10 years.
Where?
So where? I'm in Salt Lake City.
Oh, I didn't think I realized you were in Utah. Did I know that and forgot it? Maybe.
I don't know. But you're Charlotte, yes? Or outside of Charlotte?
I'm actually in my Concord office. People keep saying, is that a virtual background? I'm like, no, see? My actual office. That's how you wave at it.
You could actually tip over the board there. Yes.
I could, but you see, that's from my reel earlier this week. I haven't changed my backdrop yet.
There's other stuff to do.
That's right.
Yeah. But I've been an agent for 10 years, and the first half of it was just a total disaster. I could barely pay the bills, if at all, because I was following a mentor that they were a cold caller and a door knocker, and they'd wear their name tag and hit people up in the produce section at the grocery store. And that's not me. And so I hated doing that stuff. I never had any success with it. Like anything you hate doing, you're never going to really be great. And it wasn't until out of necessity, I just Googled how to get real estate leads that I came across content marketing, and that changed everything. So then it became about blogging, creating videos and getting it up on social and learning how to get people to see that content. And pretty soon clients started coming to me. Totally changed my life. And then the last few years, I've just been sharing my journey and what I've learned with other agents. And it's been a lot of fun.
All right. So I'm curious about something. When you went out there and made this Google search happen, were you looking for information outside of real estate? Because you and I both know the bulk of training and information that's out there is in that old school, the way we've always done it vein. And it's just now, I think, moving out into those other areas where other businesses have been having great success. So were you looking for new ideas that maybe real estate hadn't grabbed ahead of yet?
At the time, no, because I literally thought that realtors cold called and would knock on doors, and that's how agents operate. I literally didn't understand that there's other ways to attract business until that Google search. And I came across a blog from Easy Agent Pro, the website, the real estate agent website company. And they were using content marketing to talk about content marketing, like all these different ideas, like, hey, get a website, write articles, you'll be found on Google, do videos. And so the concept was brand new to me. Luckily, I happened upon that, and not just a bunch of the traditional bullshit that, is out there. But it brought me down that whole rabbit hole of attracting business by putting stuff on the internet.
Yeah, the internet, which is full of stuff, but it's not always full of good, relevant stuff. You didn't just put out random stuff. Were you talking about
Right.
Salt Lake City? Were you talking about Dustin? Were you talking about real estate? Were you talking about your past life? Because what's your past life before real estate?
Just a bunch of dead end dude jobs, like call center, detailing cars, some construction stuff, like dude jobs.
Steve and I talked about call centers in his episode. So just for the record, you should probably clarify that you were not the loan officer in the call center.
No, I was a debt collector for a local gym. Yeah, that was fun. That was
so
fun.
the $59 a month, you're that guy?
Yeah. It's like, well, you should have read your contract. I'm like, well, they lied to me. Well, you should have read it was bad. I learned the shady shit that goes on with gym memberships.
Hashtag what not to do in your sales life.
Exactly.
So you were dead end, you discover content marketing. And what did you decide to put out there that made people say, this is the guy I want to talk to?
I started with just real estate related stuff that people would search for on Google, like buying your first house, moving to Salt Lake City, stuff like that. And that worked really well. And then I started to realize, like, if you want your stuff to be found on social media, it needs to be interesting because nobody's searching for that shit on social media. And if you interrupt them with it on social, they're going to scroll right by. So I started to pay attention to what was getting my attention when I scrolled. I noticed that there things that were coming to the area always got my attention. I'm always interested in what new is coming, like a new splash pad's being built or a new like Top Golf. When Top Golf first came, I didn't know what Top Golf was until I saw the sign down the street from my house. And I'm like, a 3-decker driving range? This is cool. I Googled it and I'm like, I'm just going to do an article about Top Golf coming to Salt Lake. And that exploded everything. Top Golf reached out to me and they're like, hey, why don't you come to our media night? Because they looked at me as like a local reporter because I had like 5,000 Facebook shares on the article or something. And that validated everything. I'm like, focus on what's happening locally. And that's the stuff people find on social. Then it gets them to your website. And then some of them will just start looking around if they're interested, but most aren't. But you stay in front of them over time if it's actually interesting stuff.
So I have to ask, did you get to play for free? Because Top Golf is not cheap. Did they give you some free cocktails at least?
They did. They laid out the red carpet. Dog. It was crazy. Yeah. Like they had all the local sports anchors and, newspaper sports writers there and some Utah Jazz players and like the coach of the Utah Utes basketball team. And then me and my wife. It was so cool.
So this is actually, friends, the secondary benefit of putting excellent content out there. You might get to take your other half to Top Golf and hang out. And I bet Utah Dave Robinson will be very sad to find out that you got to go hang out with his basketball team.
Utah Dave?
I love Utah Dave. He's one of my favorite humans. He and Dawn are amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I don't know him super well, but yeah, he's a good guy for sure.
I've known him since before you were in real estate because he's old like me. So we're glad for young pups like you who come in and do way better than us in the business. And so you came into the business from dead end jobs, discovered how to reach people after being miserable for a while. My show's about crazy shit in real estate. Now, crazy can mean a lot of things. This could mean a client, a scenario. It can be crazy. I can't believe I saw this, or crazy. Oh, or crazy. So I'm very curious as to what you've seen. And of course, you've got multiple lives, right? So you spend a lot of your energy training and making other people better in real estate and frankly around real estate, because people that are not in real estate do follow for great information. And you're serving clients and serving your community and you're serving your wife, because a good husband does that. So I'm very curious as to which angle you'd like to tell us a story. And let's pretend we're having a little sip of something. I'll just get my green Solo cup here as you tell me something you can't believe I'd never heard before.
I came across a concept of boundary disputes that was super interesting. All right. So this is probably 5 years ago, like halfway through my career. It was actually a client that I got through my content marketing efforts, which was cool. But we show up, there's this house right across the street from the Utah State Capitol on Capitol Hill, which is beautiful, but homes built in the 1800s, mid 1800s, old Victorian home. And we had parked kind of on the side and came in a side door. So we didn't see the front yard. We didn't see the backyard yet. We go inside, looks pretty nice. And oh, by the way, the buyers decided to bring their entire extended family with them, 3 carloads of people. I wasn't prepared for that. The house wasn't prepared for that. Wasn't big enough. So that was interesting. But we go inside, it looks kind of cool. And we look out the window to the backyard and see all these like neon signs, like neon poster board signs. It's like, this neighbor is a crook, boundary dispute, and what else? Crook, crooked, the neighbor's a liar, don't buy this house, like all this stuff that was on the neighbor's property, but they were clearly trying to derail the sale of this house because of an apparent property boundary dispute. It was wild. So there's all these signs. Some of them have profanity, some don't. And here's the thing, like, I wasn't prepared for this because the listing agent didn't say a goddamn word. Didn't say a word.
Nothing in agent remarks said, be aware there's an angry neighbor with neon poster board.
You would think that they prepare a buyer and their whole extended family to see something like that, right? Because they like the house, they really like the house. And then they're like, well, this is a lot of drama. I don't want to deal with this. But it became hilarious that this neighbor went to great lengths to try to derail the sale, which reminds me of the movie Step Brothers. You know, when they dress up as like the KKK guy across the street to derail the sale. That's what it reminded me of. We go to the front yard after the showing and they have all these signs in the neighbor's front yard saying the same shit. Like, neighbor's a liar. They're stealing our property, boundary dispute. You know, if you buy this home, we'll call the cops, like crazy shit like that.
Seriously, that's the best way to get new neighbors, frankly. I mean,
I agree.
You hate your neighbor, totally attract that guy.
Absolutely. And because then imagine who's going to be willing to buy the house. They're going to be ready to fight, you know, not a good dynamic. So obviously the buyers did not buy that house, but it was just a very interesting thing. And I learned many lessons that day. Boundary disputes are a thing, which I'd never come across before in Salt Lake. And the next was how important communication is. If you're a salesperson, you should probably prepare. If there's some issue like this, you should probably let the buyer or the buyer's agent know, hey, there's actually a dispute going on. Don't worry about it. Like, here's the progress of where we're at with it. Here's the potential resolution. No, we just showed up and boom, neighbor's a liar. Neighbor's a crook. They're stealing our property. So that was bizarre and embarrassing and hilarious and awesome all at the same time.
I kind of like the word crook. I'm just going to point out that's a word that is severely underutilized and should be entered in all of our vocabulary because it's amazing. So
Yes.
It's true, though. I mean, you look at anything in life, and especially in real estate, how much stuff can be solved by not even stellar communication, but some communication. And the reality is you might have a crazy neighbor anywhere. And you can tell your clients that all day long. Look, you're buying the house, not the neighbor. The neighbor could leave tomorrow. But in a scenario like that, and in a world like we live in right now, where people already fight over nothing, why would anybody want to introduce that drama into their own lives?
It was bizarre. And I'm sure that there's a big, long, dramatic story to it. Obviously, the neighbor was kind of crazy to go to that length, putting up all those signs to try to ruin the sale of the property. It was just weird. But you're right. Like, a minimal amount of communication would have prevented the reaction that we had. It wouldn't have prevented the situation, but it would have made our reaction to it better because we would have been prepared going in, and we could look more objectively, like, okay, do we like this property enough to deal with this? What are the details of the situation? But no, we just showed up and boom, drama, weirdness, awesomeness all at the same time.
And I can hear the agent rebuttal to this right now in my head of, well, Leigh, I only have a few characters in the MLS. I can't waste them on this. Yes, friend, it could say, hey, showing agent, call me for some backstory. You could also call the agent when they book the showing and say, hey, friend, just so you know, going over to the house, we're working out a scenario. Neighbor slightly unhappy about the boundaries on the survey, but just wanted to give you a heads up. Saves everybody trouble, because then you could have said to your clients, if we buy this, we got to work our way through something over here. But it could have allowed them to buy the house, and that neighbor could have been solvable with one remark in the MLS or one nice little phone call or even a text. They could have just texted you, frankly.
Yeah. And I think that they might have actually bought the house. Like, they really, really liked it and the location, and it had a lot of character, being built in the 1800s, which not a lot of homes in Salt Lake City area are, except for up near the Capitol. In our MLS here in Utah, there were 3 or 4 different opportunities to mention it in remarks, and plenty of room for characters to type it out. Agent remarks, public remarks, showing instructions.
I was giving them some slack, Dustin. I was being gracious.
They deserve zero slack, Leigh.
But I guess the best buyer for that house would be an aspiring politician who wants to live across from the Capitol and is ready to fight about crooks and boundaries. You maybe could have used that opportunity to find a new candidate for office, and you missed that, Dustin. You've got to ask better questions next time.
I'll have to take responsibility for that. The state of Utah can blame me. Sorry.
All right. So anything you've seen on the training side, I'm so curious because you've got this podcast, your following loves you because you give so freely. You're never trying to sell and pitch junk. You just lay it out there. So in the time that you've been sharing and getting feedback on your podcast episodes for aspiring realtors and also, of course, the loan officers who follow you through the industry syndicate, what surprises you the most about the reaction that you get to the ideas you put out there?
I think what surprises me the most that really shouldn't is how few people will actually do shit, that will actually take action. But look, I know how that is. You go to a seminar, you go to a conference and you hear some good idea and you get all motivated for a minute to do it. And then you go back and life happens and, your normal routine happens. And it's just like, oh, one day I'll do that. So I know how that is. But when there's people struggling or they're just not satisfied with where they're at in their careers, and then it's given to them on a silver platter, almost like step by step, and then they just don't do it or they do it for a week and stop. I think that surprises the hell out of me is how many agents will they're not willing to do the work long term to build a thriving business. It's really interesting, but I think that's just a human nature thing too.
I think so. It also explains why the business is so top heavy. I mean, you've got like 95% of the business nationally is done by that top 5%. We're way out of whack with that old Pareto principle. But the reality is it boils down to the discipline to create your own motivation. So you mentioned they get an idea to get motivated for a second and then it falls away. Well, it's discipline that creates motivation. It's not magic. And y'all, I mean, when you go to Massive Agent Podcast, you're not going to get magic, but you're going to get ideas, and you're the only one that can do anything with them. And that's what the public needs to know about their realtors. Some realtors are cut out to go get it and find a way, and some are not. And that's okay because not everybody's meant to be amazing at everything. But if you want somebody that's got the discipline, ask them what their daily routine is. I always love asking that question. And I'd be thrilled if a consumer said, Leigh Brown, what's your daily routine before they hired me as their realtor? I think that I would win more business if they asked that instead of saying, well, how many houses did you sell last year? Because that may or may not be relevant. I've seen some amazing realtors who sell 12 houses a year and they do it superbly. And some agents sell 500 a year and they're completely discombobulated. So it's all over the place. I'm fascinated by it too.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yeah, this whole metric of how many homes did you sell equals how good you are is total bullshit. You're right. Like some of the top agents in certain markets they're terrible because they're spread too thin. They have too much going on and they're not involved in the day-to-day operations of their business, and clients don't get served very well, but they're very, very good at marketing and attracting business. So they sell a lot of homes. But yeah, some of the best agents I've ever worked with some of them have been part-timers. Some of them have been, moms that just sell 5 homes a year and they're completely satisfied doing that. And they're great. So you need to ask more questions. Like you said, dig into somebody. How much effort do they put into what they do? How much pride do they take in their profession? And that's very, very telling.
All right, guys. You've now met Dustin. You can see why you want to go download his podcast, the Massive Agent Podcast, and you can see why you should reach out to him for your Salt Lake City, Utah needs. Dustin, what's the best way for people to reach you if they want to connect on either of those fronts?
MassiveAgentPodcast.com or Massive Agent on social media.
So there you go. And y'all didn't write it down, and it's okay. I say that with love. Everything's in the show notes. You can go there, click, connect with Dustin, and I promise you, you'll be better for it. Dustin, thank you for coming on the show. I always appreciate it. And Phil Treadwell, you're on notice, man, because Steve delivered a great episode, and so did Dustin. So, Phil, I mean, we love you at the Industry Syndicate. Step it up. I'm just kidding. We love you.
He's going to be barking up your tree to do a re-record. He's like, dude, you got to give me another shot, Leigh. I bombed the first time. because we all know
Hey, Will, that's what Clubhouse is for. It's for all these really fun conversations because we've all missed each other's voices, which is why y'all are on podcasts. So make sure you subscribe. I need 5 stars. Any less than that, and I'm like the plant in the corner nobody waters, I will wilt away and die. So 5 stars, subscribe for more. Give Dustin 5 stars. You'll trust me. After one episode, you'll give it. Subscribe. We'll see you next time. And thank you for coming by. Good to see you, Dustin.
Thanks, Leigh. You're the best.
If you are listening to this episode and you need to tell us something about your crazy life in or around real estate, then tweet me at Leigh Brown or reach me on any of the social networks. That's if you're a broker, realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular normal human being who happens to have dealt in real estate. Subscribe for more episodes, and as always, we are thrilled that you joined us for some crazy shit in real estate. See you next time.